My name is Diana Archer, and I am 32 years old. Last Sunday, my mother-in-law slid a manila envelope across her dinner table, looked at my husband, and said, "I think you need to see this." She had secretly ordered a DNA test on our 3-year-old daughter. She expected that envelope to ruin my marriage. What she did not expect was that the same envelope would ruin the story she had been telling about herself for 36 years. But here is what no one at that table knew. Not my husband, not his sister, not his father, not even my mother-in-law, who was sitting there with her pearls, her pot roast, and her perfect little smile. I had found out about the test 2 weeks before that dinner, and what I did with those 2 weeks changed everything. If you have ever had someone question your place in a family while hiding their own truth, stay with me. And if this kind of story is the reason you listen to these, subscribe before you forget. This one is not about yelling louder. It is about knowing when to be quiet and when to put the evidence on the table. I met Pamela Archer 7 years ago. I was 25, and Michael and I had been dating 4 months. He brought me to his parents' house on a Saturday in October, and his mother opened the door like she was receiving someone for a job interview she had not approved. She did not hug me. She shook my hand, firm grip, cool fingers, eyes already moving, over my coat, my shoes, my hair, my purse. The first 30 minutes seemed normal enough. Pot roast, roasted carrots, small talk. Michael's father, William, told a story about rewiring their garage. Michael's younger sister, Chloe, sat across from me and scrolled on her phone under the table, smiling only when Pamela looked at her. Then Pamela steered the conversation. She did not do it loudly. She never did anything loudly unless she had already won. "So, Diana," she said, cutting a piece of carrot into 3 exact pieces, "where did you grow up?" "Bridgeport." "In a house? An apartment? With both parents?" I set my fork down. My mother raised me. My father left when I was 6. Pamela nodded slowly. She touched her pearl earring, rolling it once between her thumb and finger. I would see that gesture 1,000 times over the next 7 years. That must have been difficult. She said difficult the way other people say noted. Later, in the car, Michael said, "She liked you." I looked out the window. "Did she?" He laughed. I did not. What I noticed that night, before I had language for it, was how much Pamela needed to know where things came from. Where did I grow up? Where was my father? Where was the wine from? Who recommended the bakery? Where did William buy the hardware for the garage? She turned labels outward before pouring. She asked about names, bloodlines, schools, neighborhoods, origins. Pamela was a woman who tracked source material. I did not know then that this habit would one day be aimed at my daughter. I only knew she was someone who kept score. Michael and I married the next June. Small ceremony, 40 guests, outdoor venue near the Connecticut coast. My mother flew in from Arizona, where she had moved after retiring from pediatric nursing. Pamela wore cream, which my maid of honor called a power move in the bathroom. I let it go. I was marrying a good man. Our first year was quiet, in the way new marriages can be quiet. We rented a house in Milford, about 40 minutes from Pamela and William. Close enough for holidays, far enough for breathing room. Except Pamela did not believe in breathing room. She appeared without calling, mostly Tuesdays, sometimes Thursdays. We had given her a key for emergencies, and Pamela believed almost everything could become an emergency if she had decided it mattered. She rearranged our spice rack. She moved our coats by season. Once, she reorganized my linen cabinet and left a note, towels by color, easier to find. I thanked her. Michael said, "That's just Mom." I did not have the words then to explain that just Mom can become a second person in a marriage if no one ever closes the door. Chloe came over on weekends. She was 24, still living with Pamela and William, still orbiting her mother like a moon that had never been told it could leave. Every visit ended the same way. Chloe went home, and by evening, Pamela called Michael with commentary. Our house was too cluttered, our dinners were too casual. My work schedule was strange. I used too much garlic. I did not say much. I was new. I was trying. At Thanksgiving that first year, Pamela raised her glass. "To Michael," she said. She looked around the table. William, Chloe, Aunt Marion, Uncle Derek, Cousin Aaron. Then her eyes landed on me for 1 second. Michael could have had anyone. Anyone. People laughed. I smiled. Somewhere in my chest, a small instrument made its first mark. Lila was born on a Wednesday in March, 2 years into our marriage. 7 pounds, 4 ounces. She came out screaming so hard the nurse laughed and said, "Well, this one knows she has arrived." Her hair was dark, almost black. Pamela held her in the hospital room and softened in a way I had never seen before. "She looks exactly like Michael did," she whispered. For a moment, I thought maybe this was the thing that would make us family. That moment lasted 6 months. At 6 months, Lila's hair began to change. Not all at once. Strand by strand, dark brown to auburn, auburn to copper. By her first birthday, my daughter had a head full of strawberry red curls that caught the light like small flames. I thought it was beautiful. My mother had the same hair, her grandmother before her. There was no mystery to me. But Pamela did not see genetics. She saw a problem. At Lila's first birthday party, Pamela picked up one of Lila's curls between 2 fingers, the way someone might hold a thread found at a crime scene. "Interesting," she said. "What is?" "Red hair." She looked at Michael, then at me, then back at Michael. "Where does that come from?" "My mother's side," I said. "It skips sometimes." Pamela smiled and touched her pearl earring. Because red hair does not run in the Archer family." She said it lightly, not accusing, not yet, just marking a crack in the foundation for later inspection. Nobody at the party answered, but I heard it, and I knew, with the certainty of someone who reads behavior for a living, that she had been thinking about this before she said it. I am an occupational therapist. My job is watching small details other people miss. How a child grips a spoon. How a hand turns when the wrist is weak. How a parent smiles too fast when they are scared. I work with children recovering from injuries, children with developmental delays, children whose bodies do not always do what they ask the first time. Progress is measured in small movements, a thumb opening 1/2 inch, a foot placing itself flat instead of turning in. A child holding a crayon long enough to draw a crooked circle. So when Pamela started salting the ground, I noticed. Not all at once. She was too careful for that. She is so unique-looking. No one on our side has that coloring. Does your family have Irish roots? Maybe that explains it. 14 comments in 6 months. I counted. I wrote the dates in a small notebook I kept in my bedside drawer. Professional habit. Documentation turns fog into weather. Chloe helped from her own corner. She posted a photo of Lila in Pamela's garden, red curls bright against a green romper. Caption, "She is so unique looking. Wonder where she gets it." Smiley face. I showed Michael. He shrugged. "Chloe is just being Chloe." That became the family prayer. Mom is just Mom. Chloe is just Chloe. And I was supposed to be just quiet. The extended family shifted after that. Uncle Derek avoided eye contact at a barbecue. Cousin Aaron, who had always been warm, stopped texting me back. Aunt Marion, Pamela's older sister, started watching me with a strange tightness around her mouth. Nothing was said out loud. That was the design. Pamela was building a case out of silence. Silence can fill a room faster than smoke if everyone agrees not to point at it. The sippy cup incident happened on a Tuesday in April. Michael had a site meeting 2 hours north. I had a late shift at the hospital. A 7-year-old with a spinal cord injury needed extra session time, and I could not say no. Pamela offered to watch Lila. I dropped Lila off at 10 in the morning with her bag, snacks, diapers, her stuffed elephant, and the green sippy cup she loved. When I picked her up at 6, the cup was gone. "Oh, that old thing?" Pamela said. "I threw it out. It looked worn." It was not worn. I had bought it 3 weeks earlier. I did not argue in the doorway. I thanked her because women like Pamela love a doorway argument. It lets them act wounded before you finish the first sentence. But as I walked through the kitchen to grab Lila's jacket, I saw a small plastic bag on the table, the kind people use for snacks, or evidence. Pamela picked it up quickly and tucked it into a drawer. Just organizing. On the desk in the hallway, I saw a thick manila envelope behind a stack of mail. Sealed, return address partly covered. I did not understand it that night. The cup, the plastic bag, the envelope. They were puzzle pieces with no picture on the box. I went home, bathed Lila, read her a book, and fell asleep beside Michael while my brain kept working. At the hospital, I am calm because I choose to be. There is a difference between calm and small. One of my patients that spring was a 4-year-old boy named Aaron. He had cerebral palsy, his left hand curled inward, and his right hand did too much to make up for it. Getting him to hold a crayon was a project measured in millimeters and months. I sat with him 3 times a week. Some days he cried, some days he laughed, most days he stared at that crayon like it was a mountain. One Thursday he drew a circle. Lopsided, shaky, barely closed, but a circle. His mother cried in the hallway. I cried in the supply closet after my shift. My supervisor, Dr. Rivera, pulled me aside the next week. "Diana, you are the calmest person in a crisis I have ever met." I made $72,000 a year. Not rich, not struggling. Enough to help with our mortgage, pay my student loans, put money into Lila's education fund, and take Michael to dinner when we remembered we were also a couple and not only parents with bills. I mention that because later, when Pamela tried to paint me as someone who married Michael for stability, it mattered that I had built my own life before his name was attached to mine. I earned my degree. I earned my license. I chose my work because holding a child's hand while they learn to do something people told them they might never do is the closest thing I know to prayer. Pamela never asked me about it. Not once in 7 years. Easter was the first time Pamela said the suspicion clearly in front of everyone. We were at her house. Full table. William, Chloe, Marion, Derek, Aaron. Lila ran into the dining room in a yellow dress, curls bouncing, and Aaron said, "Oh my gosh, she is adorable." Pamela set down her wine glass. "She really does not look like any Archer I have ever seen." The table turned without moving. Chloe stepped in right on cue. "Mom is right. I looked through old family photos. No redheads." I looked at Michael. He looked at his plate. He said nothing. The dinner continued. Lila ate mashed potatoes. Pamela served dessert. Chloe complimented the pie. The wound was delivered and covered with whipped cream. In the car on the way home, I said, "If your mother says that again in front of your family, I will answer her." Michael's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "She will not." "How do you know?" "I will talk to her." "When?" "Soon." "You said that after Thanksgiving." He did not answer. Lila slept in the back seat, red curls pressed against the car seat fabric. Michael never talked to Pamela. I knew he would not. My husband avoids conflict the way some people avoid highways, not because he is weak, because in his family, the fastest road always led straight into Pamela. He learned young that silence got him home with fewer dents, but I was done waiting for him to merge. 3 weeks after Easter, my phone rang at work. I was between patients, cleaning rubber grips from a hand exercise kit. The number was local. I almost let it go to voicemail. "Mrs. Archer, this is Karen from Geneva Labs. I am calling to confirm that we received a sample for analysis under your daughter's name, Lila Archer, age 3. My hand stopped. I did not submit a sample. The submission was made under the name Pamela Archer. She listed herself as the child's grandmother. However, our policy requires parental consent for testing on minors. The room went very quiet. "Please repeat that." She did. We have placed the test on hold, pending authorization. Would you like to proceed or cancel? Cancel. My voice did not crack. It almost never does when it matters. That is something I learned from my mother, who delivered bad news to parents about their children's health for 28 years and never raised her voice. After I hung up, I sat in the therapy room for 4 minutes, staring at the wall chart of hand muscles. Flexor digitorum, abductor pollicis, opponens. The Latin grounded me. Then I picked up my phone and called a family attorney. Her name was Rebecca Lynn. She practiced family law out of a small office in New Haven and had a reputation for being direct. I told her everything: the hair comments, the sippy cup, the plastic bag, the call from Geneva Labs. She listened without interrupting, which told me she was actually hearing me. When I finished, she leaned back. Under Connecticut law, a grandparent cannot authorize genetic testing on a minor without express consent from a parent or legal guardian. Full stop. So what she did was illegal? It may be actionable. It is a violation of your daughter's privacy rights. It may also violate the lab's terms and procedures. Did she forge your consent? I do not know. We will find out. In the meantime, do not confront her. Why not? Because if you tell your husband right now, he will call his mother. She will cry, apologize, ask him to keep it in the family, and the pattern will continue. I looked at her. She held my gaze. If you want this to stop, really stop, let her play her hand. I paid the consultation fee. $350. Best money I ever spent. Walking out of Rebecca's office, I called Geneva Labs back. I confirmed the sample was canceled and asked them to flag any future submissions involving Lila Archer without my written authorization. Then I drove to daycare. Lila ran to me at the door, arms up, curls everywhere. I held her against my chest and thought, nobody is taking anything from us. That night after Lila went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. I searched Connecticut genetic testing minor parental consent. Everything confirmed what Rebecca said. Clinical labs had strict rules. But consumer DNA sites were messier. The kind that advertise ancestry and family connections. The kind where a person can check a box saying they are the parent or guardian and send in a sample. Pamela had tried a clinical lab. Had she also tried one of those? I opened Pamela's Facebook page. She rarely posted, but Chloe tagged her often. I scrolled back. In February, Chloe had shared an article titled, "What Your DNA Says About Your Family." Pamela had commented, "Very interesting." I took a screenshot and saved it to a folder on my desktop labeled Documentation. Then I opened my bedside notebook. 14 entries about Lila's hair. I added a 15th, April 14th. Geneva Labs confirmed sample submitted under Pamela Archer's name without parental consent. I closed the notebook. Michael was asleep. I wanted to wake him. I wanted to show him everything. But Rebecca's words kept circling. Let her play her hand. So I turned off the lamp and waited. The waiting was not the hardest part. The hardest part was carrying the knowledge alone. For the next 3 days, I moved through life like nothing had changed. Work, dinner, bath time. The caterpillar book Lila requested every night. Michael noticed nothing, and I do not blame him for that. He was managing 3 construction sites that month. He came home tired, kissed Lila's forehead, kissed me, and fell asleep by 9:30. One night, Lila padded into our room at 2 a.m. She does that sometimes. Bare feet, serious face, climbing into bed like a tiny negotiator at a summit. She curled into Michael's side, her red curls fanned across his pillow. Her small fist gripped his t-shirt. I watched them in the nightlight. My husband, my daughter, his jaw, her curls, his breathing steady, her body safe. My mother raised 3 children after my father left. No family money, no backup plan. She did it by documenting everything: insurance claims, school forms, budgets on the backs of envelopes. She taught me that information is not power, knowing when to use it is. At work the next day, I helped a 6-year-old girl practice gripping a spoon. She dropped it 11 times. On the 12th, she held it long enough to bring it to her mouth. She smiled at me. "Good," I said. Again. Some things cannot be rushed. You prepare, you position, you wait for the moment the grip holds. On day 5, I got lucky. I drove to Pamela's house to pick up Lila's shoes from the mudroom. Pamela was out. "Hair appointment," Chloe said when she opened the door. Chloe was in the living room, phone propped against books, FaceTiming someone. I walked past her toward the mudroom. Her voice carried. It always did. "Mom has the results," she said. "She is doing it at Sunday dinner, in front of everyone." I stopped with my hand on Lila's left shoe. "She has been planning it for weeks," Chloe continued. "She says once Michael sees the proof, he will not be able to ignore it." The person on the other end said something I could not hear. Chloe laughed. "I know. It is going to be insane." I picked up the shoes and walked back through the living room. Chloe saw me and ended the call too quickly. "Oh, hey, just talking to a friend." "No worries." "Just grabbing Lila's shoes. Tell Michael I said hi." "I will." I sat in my car with the shoes on the passenger seat and both hands gripping the wheel. Now I knew 3 things: when, Sunday, where, the dinner table, who would watch. Everyone. Pamela had built a stage. She had chosen the audience. She had rehearsed the lines. And she believed the results would say what she wanted them to say. I was not going to stop her. I was going to let her strike the match. The fire would know where to go. On day 7, I found Jason. Not on purpose at first. I was trying to understand the consumer DNA platform Pamela had used alongside the clinical lab. I created my own account, read through the privacy terms, and learned how family matching worked. Those sites do not only test one relationship, they scan the database for genetic relatives, parents, siblings, cousins, half-relatives, anyone with enough shared markers. Pamela had submitted Lila's DNA. That meant Lila's profile had been matched against everyone in the system. I logged into the account Pamela created. I am not proud of that. I am also not sorry. She had used an email address Chloe once mentioned, and a password so obvious it made my stomach turn. Lila's birthday. Under potential relatives, there was a name I had never seen. Jason M., age 36, Portland, Oregon. Relationship estimate, half-uncle or equivalent. I stared at the screen. Half-uncle meant Jason shared a biological parent with either Michael or me. But my DNA was not in that account. Only Lila's was. The connection had to be through Michael's side, which meant either William had a secret son or Pamela did. I took screenshots. I saved everything. I emailed the report to Rebecca. The next morning, she called. "If this match is accurate, someone in the Archer bloodline has an undisclosed biological connection to this man." "Or Pamela does," I said. She submitted the test. Rebecca was quiet. "Then we need to know who Jason M. is." It took 2 evenings. Jason Miller, born June 1990 in Portland, Oregon. Adopted at birth through a private agency in Hartford, Connecticut. His DNA profile said, "Adopted, looking for biological family, open to conversation." I did not contact him. That was not my right, but I did the math. Pamela was born in 1965. In 1990, she would have been 25. She and William married in 1992. Michael was born later that same year. Pamela had a child 2 years before she married William. She gave that child up for adoption, and she never told anyone, except maybe one person, Aunt Marion. Because when I looked closer at the shared matches, one profile showed Marion R. Possible aunt or half-aunt? Marion's middle name was Ruth. Marion knew. She had known for 36 years. I sat at my kitchen table and thought about Pamela. Not with anger at first. I thought about a 25-year-old woman, unmarried, probably terrified, maybe pressured, maybe alone in a hospital room signing papers she would remember every day after. I understood fear. I grew up with a mother who made impossible choices and still packed our lunches. But understanding the fear behind a choice is not the same as excusing the lie built on top of it. Pamela had not only hidden a child, she had buried her own history so deep that when her granddaughter was born with red hair, Pamela did not see inheritance. She saw exposure, and she aimed that fear at my daughter. Thursday, Pamela called. "Big family dinner this Sunday. I want everyone there. I told William to invite Derek and Aaron." Her voice was bright. Too bright. "We will be there," I said. Friday, I printed the screenshots and organized my documentation folder. Hair comments, dates, sippy cup, Genevia Labs, consumer platform login, Jason M. match report, Marion R. shared match. I backed it up to the cloud and emailed copies to Rebecca. Rebecca called after reading. "If Pamela presents the test publicly, it strengthens your position in any civil action. You will have witnesses." "I know." "Are you sure you want to go through with this? You could confront her privately." "I am sure." Saturday night, I gave Lila her bath. Her curls were dark when wet, pressed against her neck. I worked shampoo through the tangles with my fingertips. "Mommy?" "Yes, baby?" "Why does Grandma Pam always touch my hair?" My hand stopped, 3 years old, already noticing. "Because your hair is beautiful." "Is it magic hair?" I smiled. "The most magic." She fell asleep that night holding my thumb. Michael came upstairs. "Mom seems excited about Sunday. Wonder what is going on." I looked at him. My husband, kind face, tired eyes, good man who had spent his whole life believing his mother was who she said she was. "I guess we will find out," I said. I lay awake most of the night. Every version ended with truth. The only question was what it would cost. Sunday morning, I dressed carefully. Ivory sweater, dark jeans, small gold necklace Michael gave me on our first anniversary. No armor, no performance, just me. Lila wore a blue dress with white flowers and spun in the hallway mirror before I caught her. Michael loaded the car. 40 minutes north. Classic rock on the radio. Lila fell asleep before we hit the highway. I watched Michael's hands on the wheel. Strong hands. Builder's hands. He built houses and structures designed to hold weight. That day, I wondered if those hands would hold mine or let go. We pulled into Pamela's driveway at 4:15. 3 cars were already there. William's truck, Chloe's sedan, a silver Buick. I knew belonged to Marion. Full house. Pamela met us at the door. She hugged Michael long and tight, the kind of hug mothers give when they believe they are about to save their sons from a terrible mistake. She nodded at me. "Put Lila down upstairs. She can nap in the guest room." I carried Lila up, laid her on the bed, and pulled a blanket over her legs. Her curls spread across the white pillow. Downstairs, the family was assembled. William in his chair by the window, Uncle Derek beside him, Chloe on the couch, phone in hand, leg bouncing, Aaron setting out napkins, Marion by the china cabinet, arms crossed, mouth tight, and on the hallway table, exactly where I had seen it before, sat the manila envelope. Thick, sealed, waiting. Pamela caught me looking. She touched her pearl earring and smiled. "Dinner first?" The pot roast was good. I will give Pamela that. She was an excellent cook, one of the few things about her that was not a performance. William told a story about a fishing trip. Derek laughed. Aaron complimented the gravy. Normal sounds, normal dinner. But I watched the currents. Chloe checked the time every 30 seconds. Marion held her fork like a railing. Pamela sat at the head of the table, smiling, refilling water, asking about Derek's truck, performing calm with technical perfection and no soul. 20 minutes in, William was halfway through a sentence about a carburetor when Pamela stood. She smoothed her blouse, tucked one strand of dyed brown hair behind her ear, cleared her throat. "Before dessert, there is something I want to share with the family." The table went quiet. William stopped talking. Derek set down his fork. Aaron looked at Chloe. Chloe looked at her plate. Marion closed her eyes for 1 second, long enough for me to see it. Pamela walked to the hallway and returned with the manila envelope. She held it at chest height like an exhibit. She set it on the table and slid it toward Michael. "Open it." Michael looked at the envelope, then at her. "What is this?" Pamela placed both hands flat on the table. She had rehearsed this. I could hear it in her breathing. "It is a DNA test for Lila." The room contracted. William's chair creaked. "Pamela," he said, "what did you do?" She did not look at him. She looked at me. "No offense, dear, but this family deserves the truth." Michael's voice went low. "What truth?" "I had Lila tested privately because I love this family." She pointed toward the ceiling, toward the room where our daughter slept. "Because that child does not look like an Archer." The sentence landed hard. Chloe leaned forward. Marion stared at her plate. Pamela's voice lifted half a step. "Red hair does not run in the Archer family. I think Michael has a right to know whether she is really his." No one moved. William gripped the armrest. Derek looked down at his hands. Aaron's mouth opened, then closed. Michael stared at the envelope. His jaw worked the way it does when he is choosing between silence and something he cannot take back. "Open it," Pamela said again. She was smiling. She believed this was her moment. Michael picked up the envelope, broke the seal, and pulled out several pages on lab letterhead. He read the first page. 10 seconds passed. 15? 20. Pamela shifted her weight. Chloe stopped breathing. Michael looked up. He looked at Pamela. "She is mine." Pamela blinked. "What?" "Probability of paternity, 99.9998%. He held up the page. "Lila is my daughter." Pamela's smile did not fall. It cracked. "That cannot be right." She reached for the papers. Michael pulled them back. "No, you have done enough," Chloe whispered. "Maybe the lab made a mistake." Michael turned to her. "Shut up, Chloe." She recoiled like he had slapped her. In all the years I had known him, Michael had never spoken to his sister like that. The room understood. Something in him had closed. Pamela's hand went to her pearl earring, the old gesture, the one from my first dinner, the one from every moment when her certainty met resistance. "There must be a mistake," she said. "The hair, the coloring, it does not make sense." Michael set the papers down. For the first time since she stood up, he looked at me. I had been sitting at the far end of the table, hands folded in my lap. Still, quiet. Now it was my turn. "The results are correct, Pamela." My voice was calm. The same voice I use when parents ask hard questions in hospital rooms. "I know because Geneva Labs called me 2 weeks ago to verify parental consent. Consent you did not have." The room shifted. Not a sound, exactly. A vibration. William leaned forward. "You tested our granddaughter without their permission?" Pamela lifted her chin. "I was protecting this family." "Under Connecticut law," I said, "a grandparent cannot authorize genetic testing on a minor without written consent from a parent or legal guardian. Your attorney can explain it. Mine already has." Pamela's face changed colors. Pink, red, white. "The lab should not have." "The lab followed protocol. You did not." Silence. Derek looked at William. William looked at Pamela with an expression I had never seen on his face before. Not anger, not even disappointment. Something worse. The look of a man realizing he may not know the woman across from him. I let the silence hold. 1 second, 2, 3. But that is not the most interesting thing in those results. Every head turned. Michael looked at me. "What do you mean?" "Read page 4. He flipped past the paternity confirmation, past the methodology, past the consent disclosure. He reached the familial match report. He read slowly. Potential familial match. Jason M., age 36, Portland, Oregon. Relationship estimate. half-uncle to Lila Archer. He stopped, read it again. Half-uncle. He looked at me. I said, "He is not mine." Michael turned to Pamela. "Mom, who is Jason?" Pamela's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. Even her pearl earring hung still. The nervous gesture had abandoned her. "I do not know what that means." Marian's fork hit her plate. She stood. "Pam, don't." 2 words, and the room understood too much. William stood slowly. His chair scraped against the hardwood. "Pamela," he said, "answer the question." Pamela looked at Marian. Marian shook her head, small and desperate. "It was before you," Pamela said. Her voice cracked, not a practiced crack, a real one. "Before your father. I was 25. I was scared. My parents—" "You had a child," Michael said. His voice was flat. "I was young. You had a child and never told me." He stood too. "You never told Dad." William's hand found the back of his chair. 36 years, he said. "We have been married 34. William, please." "You told Marian." He looked at Marian. "But not me," Marian whispered. "She was scared." William did not look away from Pamela. "Were you scared every day for 36 years? Or did it become easier to lie?" Pamela cried then. Real tears. Not the ones she used when Michael forgot to call on Sundays. Not the ones she used when Chloe disappointed her. These were the tears of a woman watching a house built on silence start to sink. For one strange moment, I saw her. Not the woman who had spent years questioning my daughter. The 25-year-old girl in Hartford, frightened, maybe cornered, signing papers and leaving a baby she was not allowed or able to keep. My heart ached for that girl. Then Pamela wiped her face, straightened her back and said, "This is Diana's fault. She brought this up to humiliate me." Any sympathy I had felt vanished. Michael stepped forward. "Diana did not bring this up. You ordered the DNA test. You planned this dinner. You slid that envelope across the table." He picked up the pages and held them toward her. "I think you need to see this. Isn't that what you said?" His voice shook once. "Well, we saw it." Pamela sat down, missing the chair slightly and catching the edge. Marian reached for her. Pamela pushed her hand away. Chloe was crying, mascara on both cheeks. She looked less like a 29-year-old influencer and more like a child whose rules had just disappeared. "I did not know about Jason," Chloe said. "Mom, you told me Lila was not Michael's. You said you had proof." Pamela whispered, "The red hair—" Michael cut in. "The red hair was yours." He pulled out his phone and scrolled. "I found this in the attic last year in a box you said was Aunt Marian's." He turned the screen toward the table. An old photograph, early 1980s, a young woman in a garden squinting into sunlight, red hair, bright, natural, undeniable. Derek leaned closer. "Pamela, is that you?" Pamela's hand rose to her pearl earring, then stopped. Slowly, she unclipped it and set it on the table. The small gold post clicked against the wood. "I started dyeing it at 19, she said. I hated it. The red hair that did not run in the Archer family had run through Pamela all along. She had buried it under 40 years of salon appointments, and when her granddaughter inherited it, Pamela did not see a family trait. She saw the past coming for her. Chloe looked at me. "I am so sorry, Diana. I did not—" "I know you did not know about Jason." That was all I could give her at that table. William picked up his jacket from the back of his chair. He put it on slowly, deliberate, as always. "I am going for a drive." He did not look at Pamela. Michael turned to me. "Get Lila. We are leaving." I went upstairs. Lila was still sleeping, red curls across the white pillow like small copper rivers. I lifted her gently. She stirred, pressed her face into my neck, and settled. Downstairs, people were moving. Derek had his coat. Aaron was near the door, keys in hand. Marian stood by the china cabinet, frozen. Pamela stepped in front of Michael. "Please do not leave like this." We can talk. Michael looked at her. You did not want to talk, Mom. You wanted to perform. Marion cried. Everyone needs to calm down. From the driveway, William called back without turning. Marion, if you say one more word, I am calling my lawyer in the morning. Marion went silent. I carried Lila to the car. Michael opened the door. I buckled her in. She murmured about her stuffed elephant and I handed it to her. She went back to sleep. Behind us, Pamela's house emptied one person at a time. The dinner she planned to expose me had emptied her own home. We drove 10 minutes in silence. Streetlights crossed the dashboard in slow amber bands. Lila slept in the back. Michael spoke first. How long did you know? About the test? 2 weeks. About Jason? 8 days. Why did you not tell me? I had practiced the shape of this answer, not the exact words. Because I needed you to see it for yourself. His hands tightened on the wheel. You think I would have let her off the hook. I think if I told you privately, you would have called her. She would have cried, apologized, asked you to keep it in the family, and nothing would have changed. He was quiet. The pattern was older than our marriage, Michael. I could not break it with one conversation. Another mile passed. She dyed her hair, he said. Yes. Red hair was hers. Yes. Another mile. I have a brother. Half-brother. Jason. He said the name like he was testing if it fit in his mouth. I watched his profile in the passing lights, the jaw Lila had inherited, the shoulders that carried more than lumber and blueprints. He was processing, not shutting down, not defending. Processing. He reached across the console and found my hand. He did not let go until we pulled into our driveway. When he turned off the engine, he sat for a moment. Then he looked at me. Thank you for not protecting me from this. I squeezed his hand. That is not what partners do. That night, after we carried Lila inside, Michael stood in her doorway for almost 10 minutes. She was asleep under her yellow blanket, one arm thrown above her head, curls wild on the pillow. Her stuffed elephant was tucked under her chin. She had no idea that a whole room of adults had been arguing over her blood like she was a document instead of a child. Michael leaned against the doorframe. She is 3, he said. I know. My mother took something from her body and tried to use it against her. I stood beside him. Yes. He pressed the heel of his hand to his eye. I keep thinking about the cup. Me too. She must have planned it. She waited until she had Lila alone, took the cup, bagged it, mailed it, and then came to dinner with that envelope like she was the victim. There are moments in a marriage when you can feel a person changing beside you, not away from you, not toward you, just changing. Michael had spent his life explaining Pamela to other people because explaining her was easier than confronting her. That night, standing outside our daughter's room, he stopped explaining. I should have stopped her sooner, he said. Yes. He looked at me, surprised. Maybe he expected comfort. Maybe the old Diana would have rushed to soften it. But I had learned something in those 2 weeks. The truth does not become kinder because you wrap it in cotton. I needed you, I said. After Easter, after Thanksgiving, after the Instagram caption, I needed you to say, no, Mom, you do not get to talk about my wife and my child that way. His face folded. I know. I am not saying that to punish you. I know. I am saying it, because if we do not name that pattern, it comes back wearing a different dress. He nodded slowly. I will not let it come back. That was the first promise he made after the dinner. Not to fix everything. Not to make his mother understand. Just to stop letting the pattern return through the side door. The next morning, he changed the door code before work. No speech, no announcement. He stood in the mudroom with a screwdriver, reset the keypad, and wrote the new code on a sticky note for me. No one gets this unless we both agree, he said. It was a small thing. It was also not small at all. Monday morning, Michael called Pamela. I need time, he said. "Do not contact Diana or Lila." "For how long?" "Until I am ready." He hung up, poured coffee, and went to work. That was Michael. Process by doing. Tuesday, William called. He was staying at Derek's house. "Told your mother I need space?" he said. His voice was even. Electrician, steady. 34 years of marriage is a lot of wire to trace back. Wednesday, Chloe texted me. 3 words first. "I am sorry." Then a longer message. "I should have questioned Mom instead of believing her. I was wrong. I know an apology does not fix it, but I needed to say it." I replied, "Thank you for saying that." Thursday, Rebecca sent Pamela a formal letter. Cease and desist regarding unauthorized genetic testing of Lila Archer. Notice of potential civil action under Connecticut privacy statutes. Pamela called Michael in a panic. He told her to read the letter carefully and call a lawyer. Rebecca also sent a request to Geneva Labs for a full record of the attempted submission. Chain of custody, intake notes, consent documentation, payment information, and any communication from Pamela. The lab responded within a week. Pamela had not forged my name, which saved her from one kind of trouble, but she had represented herself as an authorized guardian on the intake questionnaire. It was right there in black and white: relationship to child, grandmother, authority to consent, yes. Rebecca read that line over the phone and went quiet for a second. "That is useful," she said. "Useful how?" "It shows she knew the form was asking for authority, and she claimed it anyway. I was sitting in my car outside the hospital when she said that. My lunch was in the passenger seat, untouched. A turkey sandwich, apple slices, a bottle of water sweating into the cup holder." "Do we sue her?" Rebecca did not answer quickly. That is one thing I liked about her. She did not sell outrage as strategy. "You have a case," she said, "but cases cost money, time, and peace. The letter may be enough if your goal is boundaries, not punishment." I looked through the windshield at the hospital entrance. A father was helping his son out of a wheelchair-accessible van. He moved slowly, careful not to rush the boy's legs. "I want her to stop," I said. "Then we start there." So we did. The letter stayed in effect. Pamela could not contact Lila's school, daycare, doctor, or any testing service without written permission from both me and Michael. Rebecca also advised us to put a privacy password on Lila's pediatric records. I called the pediatrician that afternoon. The receptionist did not sound surprised. "We do this more often than people think," she said. That sentence made me sadder than I expected. More often than people think. So many families turning children into proof. That evening, Michael and I sat at the kitchen table after Lila went to bed and made a list. People allowed to pick her up from daycare. People allowed medical information. People allowed unsupervised time. The last list had 2 names, me, Michael. He looked at it for a long time. "My mother used to be on every list," he said. "I know. That changes now." "Yes?" He picked up the pen and signed the daycare update form. Then he slid it to me. I signed under his name. There is a kind of romance nobody writes poems about. A husband filling out a boundary form beside you at 10:30 at night, a new door code, a privacy password. A man who finally understands that protecting his family is not the same as keeping his mother comfortable. Friday night, Michael sat at the kitchen table with his laptop open. He had been quiet all week, not withdrawn, just focused, like he was building something in his head. "I found him," he said. "Jason?" He nodded. Jason Miller, high school history teacher, coaches JV basketball. He has a daughter, 4 years old. He turned the screen toward me, a school website photo. Jason had dark hair, Michael's jaw, and the same slight bend in the nose. His profile on the DNA site said he had been looking for his birth mother for 7 years. Michael emailed him Saturday morning. He wrote and deleted the message 4 times. I stood in the kitchen doorway with coffee and said nothing. He had to find the words himself. The final version was short. "My name is Michael Archer. I believe I am your half-brother. My mother was born in Hartford, Connecticut in 1965. If you are open to talking, I would like that. Jason replied in 2 hours. I have been looking for her for 7 years. I never expected to hear from a brother. They scheduled a video call for that evening. Michael set up the laptop at the kitchen table. I took Lila into the living room to watch her caterpillar show. At 7:15, I heard Michael say, "Hi, I am Michael." Then another voice, deeper, steady. "Hi, Michael. I am Jason." I stayed in the living room, but I could hear them. After 20 minutes, I heard Michael cry. Not the quiet kind, the kind that comes from deep in the chest, from a place most men spend their whole lives guarding. I looked into the kitchen. Jason was crying too. Same jaw, same eyes. 36 years apart, and they looked like two versions of the same blueprint. Jason asked, "Does she know? My birth mother?" Michael wiped his face. "She knows. It did not go well. I do not want to cause problems." "You are not causing problems," Michael said. "You are not the one who lied." Lila tugged my hand. "Mommy, why is Daddy sad?" I picked her up. "He is not only sad, baby. He is meeting someone new." The first call lasted almost 2 hours. They started with facts because facts are easier than feelings. Jason was born in Hartford on June 18, 1990. He was adopted by a couple in Portland who had tried for a baby for 9 years. His father taught shop. His mother worked at a library. They told him he was adopted when he was 6 and answered every question they could answer, which was not many. He had always known his birth mother's first name was Pamela. Nothing else. Michael told him about growing up in Connecticut, about William's garage, about Chloe, about Pamela's rules. No shoes in the living room, no wet towels on the bathroom floor, no family business discussed outside the family. Jason laughed once at that. I guess I was outside the family before I knew there was one. Michael's face changed when he heard that. "You should not have been." They sat in silence on the screen for a while. Then Jason said, "Did you have a good childhood?" Michael looked toward the hallway where Lila slept. "I thought so." It was the most honest answer he had. After the call ended, he closed the laptop and sat there with both hands flat on the table. "I do not know what to do with all of this," he said. "You do not have to know tonight." "He seems kind." "He does. He has been looking for 7 years." "Yes." Michael looked at the manila envelope on the desk. My mother had 7 years of chances to answer him. I did not say anything. There was nothing soft enough to put over that. 2 weeks later, Pamela came to our house unannounced. Old pattern, same side door, same assumption that her presence would always be allowed, except the side door code had been changed. She knocked at the front door. I opened it. She stood there in a gray cardigan, eyes red, looking 10 years older than the woman who had slid that envelope across her table. "I need to explain." Michael appeared behind me. "You can explain from the porch." She swallowed. "I was young. My parents made me give him up. I carried that guilt for decades." Michael's voice stayed calm. "Then you should have dealt with it honestly. Instead, you put it on my wife and daughter. I was trying to protect— No, you were protecting your secret." Pamela looked at me. "Diana, please. I am asking for a chance." I studied her. This woman who had measured me for 7 years. This woman who stole my daughter's DNA. This woman who planned a public execution at her own dinner table and called it love. "Pamela," I said, "Lila loves you. We are not going to punish her for your choices." Hope flickered in her eyes. "But any relationship with her will be on our terms, on our schedule, and you will never be alone with her again." The hope dimmed. It did not die. Those are the terms. For the first time in 7 years, maybe for the first time in her life, Pamela Archer did not argue. She nodded, stepped off the porch, and drove away. After she left, Michael locked the door and stood with his hand on the knob. "She looked smaller," he said. "She is smaller right now." "Do you feel bad for her?" I thought about it. Part of me does. He turned. Really? Yes. I can feel sorry for the 25-year-old who is scared and still be angry at the 61-year-old who hurt my child. He nodded like he needed that distinction. So did I. Forgiveness gets talked about like a door you either open or keep shut. For me, it was more like a fence. There were parts of Pamela I could see through, parts I could understand, parts that made me ache, even after everything. But the fence stayed up, because understanding why someone became dangerous does not mean you hand them your daughter. 3 weeks after the dinner, William called Michael from Derek's backyard. "I have been seeing a counselor," he said. "Do not laugh." "I am not laughing. Dr. Pham says I need to figure out what I can live with and what I cannot." Wind moved through the phone. "I can live with a mistake she made at 25. People make mistakes. Lord knows I have." He paused. "But 36 years of silence is not a mistake. That is a decision made every day." Michael said nothing. Sometimes silence is the kindest thing a son can offer. The following Saturday, William came to our house. He brought a toy truck he had made in Derek's garage, hand-sanded, painted red, wooden wheels that actually turned. "For my granddaughter," he said. Lila saw him from the hallway. "Papa William!" She ran. He scooped her up and held her for a long time, red curls pressed against his flannel shirt. Then he looked at Michael. "She looks like your mother did at that age. You know, before the dye." Michael nodded. "I know." 6 months later, Michael flew to Portland and met Jason in person. They sat in a diner for 4 hours, 2 men with the same jaw, the same crooked nose, and 36 years of distance between them. Jason brought his wife, Amanda, and their daughter, Stella. Michael brought photos of Lila. In August, Jason and his family visited Connecticut. Stella and Lila played in our backyard while Michael and Jason sat on the porch with iced tea and watched their daughters chase each other through the sprinkler. I stood at the kitchen window and watched them, 2 brothers finding each other in the middle of their lives. Not clean, not easy, but real. Jason did not meet Pamela on that first visit. He asked about it. Michael told him the truth. "She is not ready to meet you in a way that would be fair to you." Jason looked down at his iced tea. "I waited 36 years. I can wait for honest." That sentence stayed with me. I wrote it later in my notebook, not the documentation notebook, a different one, the one I started after everything happened, the one for things I wanted to remember because they were true, not because they might be evidence. I can wait for honest. Lila and Stella did not care about adult timelines. They became cousins in 7 minutes. By the end of the afternoon, they were barefoot, soaked from the sprinkler, and arguing over who got the purple sidewalk chalk. Jason's wife, Amanda, sat beside me at the kitchen table and helped slice watermelon. "This is strange," she said. "Very. Good strange, though." "I think so." She looked out the window at Michael and Jason on the porch. They were sitting the same way, elbows on knees, shoulders forward, both watching the girls. "He was nervous," Amanda said. "Jason. He changed shirts 3 times. Michael reorganized the garage this morning for no reason." Amanda laughed. Men and feelings. They need a tool in their hand. We carried watermelon outside. Lila ran up to me, dripping water from her curls. "Mommy, Stella has magic hair, too?" Stella's hair was dark brown, straight and shiny. "Everybody has some kind of magic," I said. Lila considered that and accepted it the way children accept truth when adults do not make it complicated. Then she ran back into the sprinkler. Pamela and William went to couples therapy. William moved back home after 2 months, but he set conditions. Honesty, full disclosure, no locked drawers, no buried histories. Pamela agreed. She also stopped dyeing her hair. It came in silver gray now, with traces of red at the temples. The ghost of the girl she had tried to erase. Chloe apologized in writing. 3 handwritten pages to both me and Michael. It was the most honest thing she had ever given us. The relationship is rebuilding slowly, not with speeches, with behavior, one honest conversation at a time. Aunt Marion was not invited to Thanksgiving. No one discussed it. Her absence spoke clearly enough. At work, I helped a 5-year-old girl take her first steps in new leg braces. She gripped my hands, pushed up, and stood for 3 seconds before sitting back down. Her mother sobbed. In my notes, I wrote, "Patient stood unsupported for 3 seconds. Progress within expected range. Some things take time, but they come." The manila envelope sits in a drawer in my desk. I never threw it away. Not because I need it, because it reminds me that sometimes the weapon someone builds to destroy you is the thing that opens the locked room. Here is what I know now. People who are desperate to expose your secrets often have the largest secrets of their own. And truth does not need a perfect stage. It does not need a speech. It does not need a manila envelope slid across a dinner table by a woman who thinks she has already won. Truth needs time. It needs documentation. It needs one person willing to stay calm long enough for the pattern to reveal itself. My name is Diana Archer. I am 32 years old. My daughter has red curls, magic hair as she calls it. My husband is her father, and my mother-in-law learned in front of the family she tried to protect from me that the bloodline she questioned had been running through her all along. That is my story. A DNA test, a dinner table, and a 36-year-old secret. If this reminded you to trust yourself when everyone else doubts you, write "I knew" in the comments. And if you want more stories about quiet people who stop letting others control the room, subscribe and stay close. Sometimes the truth does not arrive loud. Sometimes it just waits until the right person opens the envelope.